responded, worried, angry, and Edward was nowhere in sight. I checked the bathroom and it was empty, though admittedly in far better shape than the bedroom. I had to nearly climb over the bookshelf to reach the balcony doors, but when I did, I was met with nothing. As I went back to the door and prepared to sweep the house for his presence, I couldn't decide if I should start deciding punishments or just absolutely panic for his safety. But every room I entered was vacant and dark, and I was finally settling on panicking rather than anger. The kitchen was black, empty, as was the dining room and family room. The television in the living room was off, but the lights were on, and I was beginning to search for a phone to call authorities, because I had no idea what had happened in my home while I was away, and the boys were gone. I went upstairs once again to reach the phone in my study, and tried to calm myself as I approached the door and opened it. The study was dark as well, but I had expected as much. As I entered the room, I was suddenly startled by a form in the leather chair across from my desk. I found the light switch on the wall, and fumbled until the room was illuminated in light. The chair was facing the opposite side of the room, but once I saw the familiar mop of bronze hair poking out from above the leather chair back, I was overcome with relief. And now that I knew he was alive and breathing, I felt comfortable with the irritation and anger that I had pushed down before. I frowned in confusion of what he could possibly be doing sitting in my study in the dark. "Do you mind explaining what the hell happened upstairs? And where on earth is Emmett?" I asked as I crossed the room in the most complacent voice I could possibly manage. He didn't answer, and I didn't meet his gaze as I rounded the desk and approached my chair behind it. I sat down with a relieved sigh, still unnerved from finding the house in such an odd condition, when my eyes finally met his face. "Good God, Edward," I breathed as I rose from the seat once again, and the panic returned to my chest. "What happened to you?" I asked, terror-stricken as I raked my eyes over his injured face. His cheek was red, and appeared welted and bruised, his bottom lip was lacerated, and though it appeared mostly scabbed by now, it didn't ease me at all. As I looked closer, I noticed that his neck had a deep and mangled right-shaped mark that made me swallow nervously as my gaze zeroed in on the swelling and bloody wound where it disappeared beneath his collar. My eyes traveled up his neck to his disheveled hair that appeared knotted and unusually bedraggled, and why wasn't he speaking? I met his eyes, and they were red, irritated, and impossibly darker, as if he had been crying. But most alarming of all was the expression he wore, as he sat in the chair and stared at me in complete silence. Serene and tranquil. His face was relaxed and placid, and his brow and forehead unusually smooth as his head rested languidly against the leather of the chair. I had been keeping such a watchful eye on him for the past month that I had become familiar with his every expression. This was never one of them. He looked fairly calm among hundreds of distressing sights, and it was simply disturbing. Slowly, I lowered myself into the chair once again, and his green eyes followed mine, in a bizarrely fluid incline, as the rest of his body remained completely motionless. "Did you get into a fight?" I had in a strangled whisper, while absorbing more details of his unkempt appearance. But I knew he hadn't. I had been witness to post-altercation Edward in the past, and serene and tranquil he was not. This was different, and he just stared back at me with that same peculiarly sedated expression. I sat for many moments in silence as I inspected him, committing his injuries to memory for treatment, until I grew both irritated and anxious with his complete lack of communication and movement. "Would you please say something?" I ordered, and the desperation must have seeped into my tone, because he finally, almost imperceptibly shifted. I saw his hand twitch on the padded armrest from my periphery, and I watched in anticipation as his lips began to part, and he spoke in a low and gravelly voice. "I need your help.